All right, y'all. So I was gonna do a video on this interview from 2 days ago now from Dakota Ditcheva, where she was kind of expressing her frustration on not having a fight this year yet with PFL, and just kind of expressing her frustration with PFL at this point, but still just trying to wait out the process, like she said, and see what they had for her. But last night, after that interview went out, I guess PFL Don Davis, he hit her up and told her we got to fight for her. Don Davis hit her up with a little information, and another interview went out with Dakota on ESPN. Real quick, short interview where the announcer, he had put it out there that Dakota would be returning, and she answered back and said that she will have a fight coming up in July now, because the plan was to let her wait it out for the PFL flyweight tournament winner, I guess, and maybe have her come back at the end of the year. That was kind of like the layout for her. But I guess when she expressed her frustration that, hey, I got to stay active, they kind of was like, okay, we'll get her a fight. I guess with her putting it out there, they probably like, all right, we got you a fight. But thing is, we don't know who it is, right? We don't know who it is. And I'm thinking that the PFL don't know who it is right now, So real quick, but yeah, let's go back through that interview from 2 days ago where she just kind of put it out there, because I just want to, go through how she sounded a little frustrated, because some of the things she was speaking on, I definitely agree with her still growing in her career, still budding in her flyweight career and wanting to test herself. I understand where she's coming from. But yeah, this is what she said. I'm not hearing a lot. Obviously, the 2025 tournament has just kicked off for the girls, which I'm very happy for everybody that's in it. Kind of. She said, I'd like to be in it myself, which I thought that was kind of crazy. I thought it was her choice that she didn't want to be in it this year, now that she's kind of stating that. Maybe she's just feeling that way now that, she's been out since November. But she said, I'm happy to see the girls building the division and getting that going. For me, I really don't know what's happening. The only thing I've heard is the winner of the tournament will fight me at the end of the year, which is fine. But it leaves me a very long time without a fight. I'm hoping me and the PFL, hold on, let me pull some. Okay. I'm hoping me and the PFL can work something out before then and get me back in the cage for the fans. Yeah, man. I mean, I agree with her on that. Like, if they weren't going to have her in the tournament, if it was their choice not to have her in the tournament, I think that they should have had another direction for us, saying that, all right, if we're not going to have you in this tournament, we got to put you in another path and start matching you up with some other fighters that can help build you up until then, Or if you can't do that, let the girl go out on her own to other organizations, even if it's not the UFC yet, let her kind of have that free range to go to other organizations and fight other champions and other, lower organizations, if they're not going to let her go to the UFC, right? So she said the prize was amazing, the belt was amazing, but for me, I want to fight. I've always been a really active fighter. So this for me now, especially not having anything lined up, is really mentally challenging for me. I really just got to believe in the process and let everything happen as it should. All right. Yeah, I agree with her on that, man. Active fighters, especially when you're younger, when you used to fighting like 3 or 4 times a year, you want to stay busy. You want to stay busy because that's the only way you can really grow as a fighter and evolve, to really test yourself. Like, you can stay in the gym all day, but you got to be in there with the right competition that can expose you or test you out in certain areas, So I definitely agree with her on that, because, yeah, like the past couple of years with the tournament, she's fighting 3 or 4 times a year. Even though some of those girls aren't lasting, that's still, a good test for her to see how good she is and where she needs to go from there. And it lets us kind of gauge where she's at, Um, but yeah, she also said this is testing me for sure. That's probably why I went home, because at the start where I was in Florida training and nothing lined up, seeing everyone train for this tournament, it was really disheartening for me. I went home, refreshed a little bit, and now I'm back ready to get back in the gym and hopefully something happens. Yeah, so I guess that was mentally challenging, especially whenever you're used to fighting, on a almost bi-monthly basis. You can always test your skills out. But like she said, when you're just waiting, it's almost draining, because the only thing you can do is go to the gym and get the work in. But also, it's a money thing too. Still a money thing. You might have won the million, but you still have to pay trainers. You still have to pay, so many people, your management, everything like that. Well, maybe not as much as like some of these other fighters, like in boxing, but still have to pay. And that $1 million ain't something you can just live off of, especially if you want to be a huge superstar in, the MMA world, right? All right. So just scrolling down here, she also said they're like, oh, we're going to put you in the end of the year. But what if the champion doesn't come out of the fight clean? What if they're injured? Someone who has fought 3 times, do they want to fight me at the end of the year? They might say, sorry, I'm injured, or I don't want to fight this year. I'll do it in January. That's a whole year out for me. It's testing for sure, but something will come. Yeah, that's another thing too. Yeah, like they're saying that this person will want to fight her by the end of the, or they want her to fight the PFL winner of the tournament by the end of the year. But yeah, they just fought three fights, you know, or depending how bad they come out of one of the fights, do they really want to go in there with the Dakota, who's huge and not just huge, but just a huge threat, period, and a killer. She wiped every girl out last year. No sweat, no sweat off her brow. Every fight was easy for her. So with any girl in this tournament who struggled to win some of their fights last year, like even a Jenna Bishop or Liz Carmouche, would they want to jump right back in there and fight somebody this dangerous? They might say, no, let me put that off till next spring. I just fought in, November. So why am I going to jump back in there in December or something like that, So that's another thing, to just put her off almost another year. So yeah, they just got to have somebody lined up for, which after reading that interview, I think that Don Davis was like, oh, okay, we better put something out there before she starts trying to get out of her contract. So this is what she said at the recent interview. I did just have a great chat with Don Davis. I did actually. I'm being a little bit more hopeful now. I think people are really getting a little bit more stressed that they weren't going to have me fight this year. But guys, I'm coming back. Don't worry. All right. So with that being said, that is good news that they are targeting a specific month now, a specific return, which will be 3 months from now. But the big question now is, who does she fight? Who's going to be ready to fight a Dakota? Who wants to fight Dakota? Like everybody in the PFL that was considered a challenge, like, Tyler, of course, already lost to her, but Tyler's out of the tournament. And with her out of the tournament, for whatever reason, Tyler doesn't have any time to work or get sharp. And would we really want to see a rematch right now with Tyler? No. The only other competition would be Liz Carmouche, and she's busy right now. So they really got to go on a hunt. So I know with them telling her that July is a good return for her, they're probably really on the move right now. They're on the move trying to find somebody for her. And they have to, because we want to see her in there with somebody that can give her just a little bit of a push. You know what I mean? Like Tyler Santos was the last hopeful one. I think Liz Carmouche probably could, but again, she's in the tournament. She's busy. But outside of that, who else outside of the UFC is really going to be a threat for Dakota right now? I mean, you got fighters that just got cut, like Montana De La Rosa. Are they going to hunt for her? Jennifer Maia, but Jennifer Maia just became the Invicta Bantamweight champion. Like, is she going to be in contract to them, or will they give her free range to move back down to 125 and fight over there? Maybe, Jennifer Maia is like a big name I would kind of shoot for. And yeah, like I said, Montana, Chanel Dyer, I always felt like Chanel Dyer was a few levels behind Dakota, but Chanel Dyer is going now. Chanel Dyer just put it out there that she left, and she's going to be going to Dana White's Contender Series this season. So yeah, even her, she's trying to leave, to head for the UFC. But it seems like Dakota's kind of locked into a contract for a little bit longer. And with the way they're moving her right now, and still trying to find fights for her and just satisfy her needs, it just seems like they're going to be holding on to her maybe another year or two. We probably won't see her till like the end of 2027, right? But let's see now. While I'm talking, I'm just kind of looking up, some fights for her. The only other fight I could think of would be Paulina Vanuski. Paulina Vanuski, who won the PFL European edition of this flyweight tournament, right? Paulina Vanuski, she swept it. She swept it last year, and she won the tournament by first round finish over Valentina Sketsisi, who is somebody that Dakota beat as well, right? So that might be the only other fight that would really make sense. I mean, she's a pretty hard striker. She's a tall, long striker at 5'6". She's got some power in her right hand too, and she's undefeated. She's 26 years old at 5-0. She brings somewhat of a threat, but even then, that's the only name I can think of. But I don't even know if she would be that hard of a fight for Dakota or even a good push. Like, I can't even consider that a super fight, but take what you can get, right? Outside of that, there is Cheyenne Bowers. Shout out to Cheyenne Bowers. She just won the LFA fight she had yesterday. So they always reach out fighters like that if they bring them over. Shannon Clark, who won the LFA title, flyweight title. There's fighters like that. But even then, I don't know if they want to risk Shannon Clark, because Shannon Clark's striking wasn't that great when she fought on the Dana White's Contender Series. So it's really tough right now. It really is tough for PFL. I mean, it really is tough for Dakota right now. So my only thoughts is, hey, she's got to make her way over to the UFC at some point, because it just seems like she's being a little frustrated. So the PFL, they got to be ready for that. The PFL, they have to be ready for young fighters that are hungry and just ready to go. That's why this season doesn't really work. It's kind of off for these fighters. The season tournament doesn't really work. They just have to have like a regular fighting schedule, because girls like her, they're going to want to stay busy. And if you're not getting it, you'll leave. You want to leave. You don't want to be put on a shelf. So I say shout out to Dakota, for just actually coming out there and just saying, hey, they don't have anything for me right now. And she was showing frustration, because that was the only way they could really answer back now. But yeah, as a fight fan, I am a growing fan of Dakota. Definitely, man. I just always wanted to see her tested. I'm just somebody that always looks at resume, and I respect her as a fighter, definitely. So when she comes back, I'm gonna be watching. It's mostly her fans I'm not a fan of, right? As long as I like her, that's what matters. And as time goes on, I'm liking what I'm seeing, and just going back and studying her. I definitely like what she's bringing to the table as a flyweight, and I can't wait to see her in the UFC. I really can't, man. I'm a striking fan too. Y'all know me, love strikers. So if she can get to the UFC at some point, yeah. But we know not right now. So, like I said, those might be the options. Like a newly cut Montana, Jennifer Maya, Paulina Vanuski. Those are the only names I can think of, y'all. But with 3 months being the deadline, I know she's gonna be waiting. Might be somewhat of an easier fight. Let's just be real. They might just try to find her a C-level fight. But even she said it too. Also in the interview, she was like, they got to give her somebody on Tyler's level right now. She was like, fans really don't want to see her fight down, and she doesn't want to fight down. She wants to test. She said it herself. She was like, I gotta have somebody that's going to test me now, because after fighting Tyler, she turned out to be easy, but they got to give me somebody. So that's where it's really going to be difficult for the PFL to find that. But it's not really a good look on them, because the fans, they're going to ride with their fighter, and they're going to express frustration, and it's going to come out through Dakota as well. But let me know, guys, in the comment section what y'all think. I just wanted to jump on and do a little discussion stream here, and get my thoughts on Dakota's situation. Yeah, because that second interview just popped up, and when I saw that second interview pop up, I was like, oh, okay. I was like, they must hurt her. They must hurt her. So they had to come out, bounce back, and throw something at her and say, hey, we got you scheduled. We got you covered. You can fight in July, So yeah, what do y'all think? Who do y'all think she's gonna fight in July, y'all? Probably talk a little bit more about it, just seeing if I see anybody that I would recommend. But hit that like button and subscribe, y'all. Combo Breaker 99. I'm out. Peace.